So
I don't think I follow. You're saying that America is wealthy because we're stealing resources from other countries?
100%.
I don't think that's true.
That's 100% false. America is not wealthy because we're stealing resources from other countries. America is actually wealthy because we produce most of the resources for a lot of other countries.
Hello again.
Hello.
So, it takes a global economy for a country to be successful. And obviously, the U.S. has suffered over the last several years. Why would Donald Trump, the president is a professional job. Why would he speak unprofessionally about other countries when we depend on like the Middle East for oil? And, it takes a global economy and people of all races to make the U.S. what the talents. Instead of saying, I'm going to ban all Muslims, that's discrimination. How could he do that? Not all of them are bad. He's stereotyping. He needs to work on that because that's not the job of a president is a professional job, the highest job. And if he's going to speak like a bully, it ain't going to work.
Again, we understand sort of what we're signing on to with Donald Trump, with his comments and the things that he'll say. I'm more concerned about the things that he does. And under Trump's administration, we had energy independence. We weren't dependent upon these other countries necessarily for oil or for things like that. Whereas, under different administrations, we become less energy independent, costs go up, and lives get worse for people over here in America. So I think with foreign policy, we touched on the economy, we touched on trade. I would like to keep the discussion more focused on things like, war, dealings with other nations diplomatically. And I look at the state of the world now, and I think it's objectively less safe and more unstable than it was under Trump's presidency. Trump likes to say that he didn't start any new wars. That's actually true. He's the first president in my lifetime, or even my dad's lifetime, to not get us involved in new foreign conflicts. He actually pulled us out of large portions of the Middle East, including Syria, which was against the interest of the establishment in Washington, because the establishment in Washington has wanted to pursue a policy of regime change in Syria because they want more instability in the Middle East, which is where, like we said earlier, we've been for literally the entire century so far.
So if you guys don't know me, my name is Jojo. Today we'll be checking out a conservative versus a plethora of Kamala Harris supporters or Democratic supporters. And he's going 1 on 20 in this video, or 1 on 26. It's a crazy amount. Let's see who wins, who will be better, although Trump already won. Who makes more sense here? Without further ado, let's get it.
And I don't support that. I don't think Americans support that. And Donald Trump is the only one who's willing to go against the grain on that.
How you doing, young man?
Great, since we last spoke.
Yeah, you hanging in there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, speaking of the war, I have nieces and nephews coming up. What can you do to see that there will not be a draft?
Yeah, I think that's a concern for anybody who's roughly my age or the age of your nieces and nephews. Simply not get us involved in more foreign conflicts, basically. It sounds simple, but that's true. Any situation where you would need to institute something like a draft would require America being imminently under attack. And so long as we can prevent that, we wouldn't need to have something like that happen. And I think Donald Trump has a very clear-cut peace through strength kind of foreign policy, which is why under Donald Trump, America wasn't being attacked, allies weren't being attacked, we crushed ISIS, we reduced our involvement in the Middle East, and there was a more peaceful, it was a safer world. And then in 2 years of the Joe Biden administration, you see Russia invade Ukraine, you see now the conflict between Israel and Palestine popping off. So we're dealing with multiple theaters now, all asking America, what are you going to do? So we send them hundreds of billions of dollars, American military equipment. These are not things that Donald Trump wanted to get involved in. You can look back his public statements, even when the Iraq War was beginning in 2003, he was against it. So I think if you're looking to reduce the risk of family members having to go die for a country that's not even theirs, you need to support a president who does not have an interest in war. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is the only option we have for that. In terms of, he's the only politician in my lifetime who has come out against those wars, be those Republicans or Democrats. Everybody was pro-involvement in the Middle East until Donald Trump got up there and said to Jeb Bush, George Bush's brother, he told him in that debate in 2016, the towers came down under your brother made us less safe, the war was a big fat mistake. That's career suicide for any other Republican politician.
Being the third party here, I think he makes a lot of sense. One thing you guys have to understand about me, is that I have no real interest on either side of the political spectrum. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm not a real fan of Kamala Harris. I'm not leftist or Republican necessarily. I would even argue I never really dove too deep into picking a side because when I turned 18, I began studying engineering. So I never really had a real interest of either side. However, when I watch these type of videos, I really want to know who makes more sense, the Kamala Harris supporters or the Donald Trump supporter. In this case, one supporter. And he makes a lot of sense here. I don't really have a personal beef or a personal love for either side. I'm going by who's making the most sense, who's providing the best arguments, who sounds like they actually care for the better interest of America. So let's continue with this video. Do with that information as you will. Let's go.
Donald Trump pulled it off because he had his own money and he was a household name already. But nobody in Republican politics dared to speak out against these foreign wars until Donald Trump, which is why under Trump's presidency, we didn't see these escalations. We didn't see this destabilization the way you see it now because the establishment likes war. It's very profitable for a lot of people. And so Trump is the only one I think who can move against the grain on that, which is what he did.
So you can honestly say we got the technology, military technology, where we won't need boots on the ground.
You know, modern warfare is definitely a lot different. If we did have something like, God forbid, a actual traditional war where America is going and, doing stuff, then yeah, I'm sure we'd have boots on the ground, but you'd also have drones, you'd have sanctions, you'd have things like that. But where, your family members would be drafted, that would require an extreme scenario, which I think could only be prevented by basically having a president who's respected and not laughed at. I mean, you saw Chinese diplomats, you saw Russian diplomats. They're making fun of Joe Biden because they understood that his cognitive state wasn't quite there. Right. People look at the commander-in-chief, the leader of the armed forces, and you might not like Donald Trump's rhetoric, but that's a guy who you understand he can sort of back up what he's talking about in terms of you mess around with us, you're going to face consequences, which is why, in 2020 or when 2019 was wrapping up, you saw there were militias in the Middle East and they went and they attacked the United States Embassy. They were taking pictures with our seal. They were making fun of it. 3 days later, Donald Trump blew up the second most powerful guy in Iran. And everybody said, oh, he's done it now. There's going to be World War III. And what did Iran do? They threw some missiles in the general direction of some of our military bases, and they caused some concussions for guys over there, but they didn't do anything else because these countries are little chihuahuas, and you need somebody who can not get involved with them, but who can let them know that we're not going to be pushed around anymore. And because of that, they won't act in ways that put American lives at risk, which again is what we saw under Donald Trump. We're seeing the opposite now under Joe Biden.
So, I have a sister-in-law who's in the Army. I have a friend who's in the Marines. Mm-hmm. And while President Obama was in office, he did get deployed a couple times to fight in the Middle East. And I just want to know, what is the plan or strategy to keep military here, mm-hmm. but to also prevent foreign countries from essentially coming after us? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that I would like to know. So when I was growing up, for example, one of the things that I would always hear, which I'm sure everyone here has heard a million times, is that we have to fight them over there so that we don't have to fight them over here. And it was a way of justifying involvement in the Middle East by basically saying these people hate us because we're just so great. And if we don't go fight them over here, then they're going to come and commit acts of terrorism in America. And then we're all going to have to deal with that. It turns out that's not actually how it works. They don't hate us because, we're just so great, USA number one. They hate us because we're involved in their countries trying to institute forms of government which they just don't want unless we're over there literally at gunpoint forcing them to be involved in these things. And so Donald Trump, when he was running in 2016, he basically made 3 promises in terms of foreign policy. He said he wanted to crush ISIS. He said he wanted to long-term get us out of the Middle East, and he wanted to specifically not continue DC's policy of regime change in Syria, because the Syrian civil war was going on at the time under the Obama administration it began. And what the United States was doing literally was we were giving money and we were giving weapons to these militias who were fighting against the Assad regime because we thought it would be better for the interests of America to take Assad out of power and have Syria more destabilized and things of that nature. And Trump was actually the one who broke free from that. He said that, no, we're not going to do that. That's so stupid because we're fighting
ISIS, and then we're also fighting guys who are also fighting ISIS. And so he took us out of Syria and reduced the risk of American personnel being attacked there. And then you look at the way the media thanked him for that. They said, this is Donald Trump's gift to Moscow, because Vladimir Putin was also with the Assad regime fighting these people in Syria. And so they said, well, Trump must be a Russian puppet. That's why he's doing this. When in actuality, it's because we have no business being in the Middle East. I mean, we don't get anything from it. We don't even, like we said earlier, get the oil from it. It's just a big fat mistake. And so Trump has been able to simultaneously pull us out of those conflicts while protecting Americans. I mean, when's the last time anybody here heard about a terrorist attack from ISIS? I mean,
It sounds like he's extremely educated on this topic, and he definitely done his research on what Donald Trump has done. Me personally, I haven't done any research on this issue at all. I know absolutely nothing about it. So this is why I love these videos, because for me personally, and probably for a lot of people who are watching this, we don't know about foreign policy. You probably do, because you clicked the video. You probably know a lot about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I don't. I know a little bit, but not enough to debate anyone necessarily. So I love this because I can learn who the better option really is without someone trying to force feed their biases down my throat. So pause. So this is really enjoyable, but let's continue.
he crushed them, killed the leader, and it just simply ceased to be an issue.
Terrorists in our own country.
No, because of the open border. No, al-Baghdadi was killed by Trump. He died like a dog. You can see the monologue. It's quite funny the way Trump articulates it, actually. But yeah, Donald Trump was able to. That's not even the same thing. Not even the same thing.
It resulted in people's death.
We're talking about foreign policy. So yeah, I mean, I have great respect for anybody who's involved in the military, but the other side of that is I don't want to see them have to go fight if it's not for their interest. And the best way to keep us safe is to just stop getting involved in stupid fights, which again, Trump is the first president in our lifetime to actually take that position.
I think the bottom line is that, like, when you say like destabilize all these little chihuahua countries and all of this stuff, I think it just comes down to stealing and exploiting these countries. It's no way that, like, because America is a great country when it comes to the whole aspect of not dealing with a lot of things and clean water, just, you know, basic life necessity. But
Sure.
when it comes to exploiting people, especially like, you know, like you say, third world countries,
Yeah.
it's because you guys overtake a lot. And like, don't replace, don't give the money that's needed for what you're taking, like those resources, that coltan, that just whatever, you know what I mean? So
I don't think I follow. You're saying that America is wealthy because we're stealing resources
of
from
course,
other countries?
100%.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, 100% true.
That's 100% false. America is not wealthy because we're stealing resources from other countries. America is actually wealthy because we produce some of the we produce most of the resources for a lot of other countries. We produce a large majority of resources in the world, which is actually ironic that he's saying this, because a big stigma for Americans is that we overwork. All we care about is our job. All we care about is making money this, money that. The reason we have that stigma that all we care about is money and all we care about is working a job and we're very career focused in America is because we do produce a lot of economic advantages for the world. We do produce a lot of things for the world. This is why the stigma is on us when it comes to money, because America makes a lot of money because we produce a lot of things. Some of the biggest companies on earth are American companies. Not saying all of the companies, of course. So when you say America, all of America's wealth comes because we just steal it from other land, it's just inaccurate. It's not true at all, man. But let's continue.
No.
As somebody who has immigrants in their family, I can confirm that, like, kids that do child, labor and stuff like that, coltan and all of that stuff, that important mineral for that pretty iPhone that everybody has.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stealing and exploiting going on. So
They're working in those countries, and that's somehow Americans' fault because we want to buy the products of their labor.
no, it's not that. It's not buying the products. It's more so using the kids for that labor and not properly compensating them.
American doesn't do. We have I couldn't get a job until I was 16 because we have child labor laws.
Yeah, and
Right, but we're
foreign
talking
countries is
about
different.
America, though. We're talking about American
Yeah.
foreign policy.
But I'm saying when you say like the whole Syria war and all of this stuff, like there's a reason, and we know it's something. But it's just one of those things where like I feel like if you're gonna do something and call yourself the greatest country, do it with dignity and not bring other nations down. This is not the fire nation and water, earth, and air nation. It's just, you know what I mean, just at the bottom.
So it's like Avatar.
Yeah, that's
see.
what it's like. America is the fire nation, and the rest is like just.
I think that, even one of the things that Trump complained about in 2016 is that we went to the Middle East and we didn't even take the oil.
Yeah.
So,
Even this discussion just kind of confused me a little bit because the video's about conservative versus Kamala Harris, and he said America is the fire nation. So it sounds like you're anti-nationalist. So do you believe that Kamala Harris supports anti-nationalist ideals? I'm a little confused on how this relates to Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, because both of them are trying to be president. Are you saying that Donald Trump is the leader of a fire nation? What exactly are you getting at right now? I'm a little confused, but I'm out of time. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you want a part 2 to this video. It's LFR Jojo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.